actually is interested and I would like to hire them. You can be any of those 3 groups and you can be in any other groups. But we are here to answer some questions and we are here to put question marks on some things. And I believe that my panelists here today, they are going to tell you the hard truth. I'm promising you they are going to tell you the hard truth. But I also want to mention that this selection, it was done intentionally, right? And I also apologize on behalf of one of the panelists that was supposed to be here, Wale Abba. I'm sure you might have seen it in the correspondence you've been receiving when you registered. He has a family emergency, so he can't be here. But this panel was carefully chosen, right? Every business has 4 people or stakeholders that they interact with. We have the customers, and it's the marketing professional that interacts with them. We have the employees, is the HR professional that interacts with them. We also have the regulators, is the legal department that interacts with those people. Then we have the product. Those are the engineering team, the design team, right? And this group of panelists, they consist of all these stakeholder-facing groups, and they are going to tell you their mind about starting a fintech in a career in fintech, rather. So without further ado, I'm going to start calling out our panelists here today. I'll start with Weyinmi Barber. Weyinmi Barber is a HR tech expert, and she has been in the HR field for a decade. And she has done a lot of things in, not just in tech, but in the conventional space. Welcome to the stage, Weyinmi Barber. Please, a round of applause for Weyinmi Barber. Sit here. Thank you for coming. And then let's call Gbolahan Olayemi. Gbolahan Olayemi is the Chief Legal Officer for Opay. You know what that means? Chief Legal Officer for Opay. If you know what it means to be a fintech startup in Nigeria, in Africa, you know how they have to battle day and night with regulators. Is the one covering the back of Opay. So let's welcome to the stage Gbolahan Olayemi. Yes, you can sit there. Okay. Then we also have here Onyinye Okonji. She is the co-founder. Did I pronounce it well? Thank you. She's the co-founder and director of Sycamore. Sycamore is a startup that helps you lend people money and you are sure that you will get it back. And they are not going through any crooked ways. They are not going to blackmail the person that owes you money. They have a system for that. So she's the co-founder and the director, and she's also the chief marketing officer. So she's here to tell you what it means to get people to use your fintech startup if you are going into that field in fintech. Please, let's welcome Onyinye Okonji. Thank you very much. You can sit there so that I can sit in here. Yeah, so I'll sit down too. As I mentioned, I am Oluwanifemi Kolawole. Please clap for me. Thank you very much. Yeah, so we have a lot of things we'll be discussing today, and it's going to cut across all the departments that they all work in. Onyinye is in marketing, right? Gbolahan is in legal, and Weyinmi is in HR. Wale in absentia is in engineering. But he can't answer the questions. But any questions you have, you can ask these people. So you can prepare your questions then before we start this conversation. In the middle of it, we spice it with some of your questions. Then I will ask some of the questions I have yet with me. Please enjoy this session, and I'm sure you're going to be more enlightened than you came. Yes, I think this should go to everyone, right? So I've spoken with experts in different capacities, and when I hear them talk about what they do, I'm like, oh, this is like bread and butter. The way they talk about it's like this is the next best thing after sliced bread. So I want you to do that for us yesterday. Tell us what you do. Let these people who want to collect your job. Like, sell your job to us. Gbolahan, I think we should start with you.
Okay. Thank you, Nifemi. Hi, everybody. My name is Gbolahan Olayemi. I'm head legal Opay. I also double as the company secretary. And so for me, what I do at Opay, I like to see it as like the defender for those who are into football here. There's a lot that happens on the business side of things for every company and every organization. But it's important that as you push forward on all frontiers, you also have the home base covered. And that's what legal does. That for me, as OPay pursues so many opportunities in different verticals, it's crucial that we are compliant in every regulatory way that we should be, that also our corporate governance is on point. Also, people will come for your stuff, to take out of the things that you've gathered for a while, customer complaints that are sometimes based out of fictitious reports. Some are actually valid. So we respond to that. I do that with my very amazing team. We respond to court orders that we receive, letters of complaints. We handle corporate governance, like I mentioned. We also provide legal guidance and advisory, both on the board level and management level. We provide departmental support as well. So as the business continues to pursue many ideas, sometimes they need to know if the activities that they're doing are within the permissible activities under the license that they were given by the CBN, for instance, or any other regulator that guides the things that they do. So we provide all of that oversight in terms of legal, the legal support, the legal advisory guidance, company secretarial as well. So board meetings, filings at the CAC, board filings, preparation of contracts and agreements. So all of the things that you want to do, for instance, with other parties, need to be documented. So sometimes it's like a product life cycle. So from the time that you conceive the idea and you're thinking of how to, pay by just hitting your hand on this wall, the business guys will say, we have an idea. You can just shout at this wall and money will come out. You have a lot of I've had a lot of bright ideas in my life, in my career. And then you think, okay, so how did you come up with these ideas? Somebody had an idea one time, marketing, to, go around Lagos, with helicopter and drop flyers all around. They called it an aggressive marketing campaign. And while listening, I just thought, come on. So those are the kinds of things that we do to say, no, maybe you can't do that. So I really enjoy my work, and it's partly because there is direction. And you know how they say that direction is more important than speed. So sometimes you move fast, but you're moving in the wrong direction. So all of the direction from a legal perspective, I provide for the company with my team. Thank you very much.
A lot of work, but it is fun to you.
Yeah, a lot of fun. I look forward to every day at work.
Wow. Okay. Onyinye, can we have you?
Hello, everyone. My name is Onyinye Okonji. I'm currently employed by Sycamore NG. What Sycamore does is we bridge the financial gap between the haves and the have-nots. We provide lending products to individuals and SMEs who are in need of cash. We also have a platform where individuals can lend to their friends and family. It's called Loan Friends, right? It's a feature on our app. So that's what Sycamore does. What I do on a daily basis differs, right? So I work as officially the CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, but I also oversee risk management in the company. I manage operations from a collection standpoint because we're a business that gives out money, so we want to be able to have an eye on when's that money coming back. So, I have an eye on that too. Then there's internal control. You want to make sure that the structures in the business are are enough and are resilient enough to be able to cater to the risks that emerge, right? And then we have to find ways to mitigate those risks as well. So different days, different hats, but generally chief marketing officer. So we basically put the product out there in the face of customers, in the face of collaborators, in the face of hopefully everyone who would be interested in it.
All right.
Thank you.
Still doesn't sound fun.
It doesn't sound.
It's a lot of work. You have to bring people to lend money, and then you have to get the money back from them. But you enjoy it. That's all that matters, right?
I do enjoy it. It's I think for me, because I understand that money can be emotional, and when people come to take loans, it's like they are almost shy. But I understand that it's a service. We don't understand. In Sycamore, we have a general understanding that, look, we are providing a service to you, so come with your full chest. Let us also, when we want to collect the money, come with our own full chest too. So it's very, very interesting. I don't know how to make it sound more interesting. So you guys come and take my job.
I'm just some people want your job here as they are seated.
You don't want it.
All right, Weyinmi, let's have you.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Weyinmi Barber, and I am a HR leader in the tech space. So I currently head HR for a tech startup. I see my job as I'm responsible for identifying, attracting, hiring, retaining, developing, and rewarding tech talent. And tech talent doesn't just speak to people in technical roles, such as developers, testers, and so on and so forth. We also have some really important functions that are not technical, like product marketing. Some people consider design to be not a technical role. Product management, well, some are technical. And I really enjoy what I do because I think I'm very lucky and privileged in the sense that I get to work with some of the smartest, hardest working, most creative, most engaged workforce in the world right now, because I firmly believe that people in the tech space are some of the most engaged workforce, because there's a sense of purpose and a connection to purpose that I haven't seen in any other industry. So you see that a lot of people in the tech space are really excited about what it is they do. They're excited about their job. They're excited about the purpose of the organization that they're attached to or the company they're trying to set up because they really believe in the vision of the organization. So I get to deal with people all day, talking to people, solving problems, figuring out how to, make things more efficient and effective for the people, for the workforce, for the tech talent, the people who are responsible for building the fintech products and selling the fintech products and maintaining the fintech products. So, yeah.
See how she's smiling while talking about what she's doing. Like, people are the most dangerous and hardest people to manage. But when he's talking about it and she's smiling, who wants a job? Okay, I don't know if any of you have practiced what you're doing now in a conventional space that is outside tech or fintech, right? Have you?
Yes, I have.
Can you tell us if there's a difference between it?
Oh, for me, in my experience, definitely, right? My previous industry was oil and gas. It's a very mature industry. I think the major similarity between both industries is maybe they are both highly regulated. That's where it ends. Everything else, they are literally complete opposites, right? And you don't see the level of engagement and passion. I mean, it's a commodity, right? You're removing the oil from the ground, you are refining it, you are selling it. People need fuel for their cars, they need gas to cook, they need industrial gas to power their machineries. It is what it is. It's not the most exciting or passionate you know. But in tech, there's this excitement and passion. There's this idea, there's an ideology behind it. And the ideology is, how can we improve the human experience, right? How can we make the human experience better? So in the fintech space, for example, a lot of products are being built to try and solve problems around financial inclusion, around cross-border payments, around access to credits for people who may not have had such easy access or such straightforward access. So it's that ideology and that sense of purpose, and I'm doing something meaningful, and I'm solving real problems that make people's lives better. So that's one huge difference, I think, between a lot of conventional industries and the tech space, specifically the fintech space.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And you've all spoken well about what you do in fintech, and it's good to hear, right? Although you not mention the part that you have money, you not mention that part, but it's okay. Well, I know you are expecting the next question of the challenges that come with working with fintechs. Are they mental, like, or emotional, or physical? Like the kind of challenges that you have to, because you have to tell people the truth.
Yes.
Now, some people want your job, so you have to tell them their truth. Maybe you should actually come for my job, or you should stay away. Anyone can go first.
Okay, I thought you wanted to go. I think it's all, for me, sorry for that, it's, the challenges are, they're all encompassing. So fintech is, borrowing from what Weyinmi said, is relatively young, not relatively, actually it's young, compared to the traditional industries, such as the oil and gas. I came from FMCG, and it's a lot of things that we wake up to each day are things that we didn't know about. Like, so there's a lot of ignorance, for instance. Okay, so maybe not ignorance, limited knowledge on the part of both the builder and the regulator. So as you're coming up with innovative products and trying to sell it to the end user, to the customers, to the users, the regulator is also trying to figure out what you're trying to do. So we all know that there is no centralized regulation for fintech in Nigeria, for instance. Mm-hmm. So much of the things that regulators are based on policies and guidelines of the CBN. So the CBN just realizes that, okay, so we need to issue something. There's something happening in that space that we better just, and then periodically, if you engage with the regulator all the time, which is a smart thing to do, by the way, so because there are lots of gray areas for both the regulator and the companies, you want to get their guidance. So you write to the regulator to say, we're trying to advance the product. What are your thoughts? So that's why they do something called a letter of no objection. The letter of no objection means that, okay, so we don't have a specific regulation or guideline or policy regarding this thing, but okay, we don't object to you doing this thing. It varies essentially based on how convincing you can be. So, I mean, borrowing from what she said again, that difference between the traditional system or industry and fintech can also make this very interesting. So it's not clockwork, it's not a ritual, to just wake up every day and then just do an agreement for the introduction of a new ingredient into a drink. Is very boring. You can tell from the change in my tone.
But you were there.
Well, Nigeria. So I wasn't there because that was where I wanted to be, but you just hold on to what you have until you get what you need. You get. So that was it for me.
Hold on to what you have until you get what you need. Now he's in Opay. He likes what he's doing.
Yes, I do.
Right, please, Onyinye.
Gbolahan has come from the regulatory standpoint. Okay, I'll give an example of one time when we were trying to launch a product into the market. It was meant to be targeted at the grassroots. This was called tax and money rights. It was really targeted at road transport workers specifically. Wanted to be able to give them a cash extension for a week. Each week they pay back, right? And when we started a few months down the line, we're going well, and then government from nowhere introduces the Okada ban and then the Keke bans. Guess what? All our money down the drain. That is physically and mentally straining on you, right? Because you have put in a lot of work to develop products. You think that you've gotten your target audience right. You think that you've checked all the boxes. So there's a lot of mental exertion in doing that. And then also the mental exertion of thinking, okay, what's the next thing? So in fintech, it's very exciting, but with that constant excitement, it can be very straining. So you have to find ways to decompress. You have to find ways to, step aside. It's even good for you to step aside and see things from a bird's eye view so that you can even come back refreshed and, be able to put your creativity to good use. So.
I can only imagine, like, for somebody like you that is into marketing and risk assessment, I don't think any assessment would have prepared you for an Okada ban.
There's no, there's no assessment that prepares you to do any business in Nigeria.
Oh.
Right? You just have to be brave and put your best foot forward. And then when the blows come, if they do, you take it along stride and move forward. Hey, what's the next best thing to do? What's the next thing? You have to come with plan A, B, and C. So.
Right. I like the way you gave like a scenario that we can work with. Weyinmi, what are the challenges with working with fintech founders or people that build fintech products?
Okay. So working in HR means people, right? Dealing with and managing people. And managing people can be mentally and emotionally tasking and draining, right? People are very complex very complex creatures. Human beings are very complex creatures with many different layers. Motivations differ, backgrounds differ, cultures differ, expectations differ. And managing talent in the tech space comes with its own unique peculiarities and nuances. For one, you're managing people who are very highly in demand in the labor market. So trust me, it requires a lot of patience. Attrition in tech is higher than any other industry in the world. So managing people who have a rare skill and who are highly in demand, like I said, you need a lot of patience. It can be mentally and emotionally draining. Just trying to, keep things steady from a people perspective, people operations, people strategy. So I would say it can be very mentally and emotionally draining.
Right.
That's the reality,
Thank you. I hope we are getting the exciting and the non-exciting part. But I'm sure everybody will still choose what they want to choose. But still, let's just get everything it is that they are saying. Gbolahan, I want to talk about the industry you play in, right? You are the chief legal officer. Is it a role that somebody can just transition into in fintech? Or you have to have like a background, like a strong background before you can do? It's legal and compliance, right?
Yes. So, the best thing about the legal industry is also the most challenging. So, let me take the most challenging. So, it can be boring because you have a set of rules and precedents to follow, judgments, the law, which can sometimes restrict innovation, right? The good part, the best part is the basic things that you know or learn on a daily basis can come into play in any given scenario. We had an instance sometime this week, and I was discussing with my team members. I remember that I gave a reference to some case that we did in 200 level or 300 level called Rylands and Fletcher. It just basically says that anybody who is in possession of an item or, say, a dog, for instance, has the responsibility to protect the members of the public. So whenever a damage is done by something that escapes from you will be penalized. It seems like something you can relate to nuisance, somebody planting a tree or somebody letting loose their dog and then the dog biting. Seems remote, right? But then we discussed it in terms of a payment transaction. So in terms of if you're not able to protect your assets, for instance, your password, and somebody gets into your system and then somehow creates some more damage for other people, you can extend that knowledge from this scenario that I gave to this particular one. So in terms of career switch, if you have the basic things that you need to know in the legal industry or in as a lawyer, then you can fit in. I mean, I wasn't doing fintech until I joined Opay. So I was always interested in tech, but it was like I was friends of tech from afar. I mean, I did a lot of things, on the side, but I never did it as like a core career. So I was with Coca-Cola for a while, and then I had the interest in fintech until the Opay opportunity came. And then I just realized that I could ease into it. But then it would take some getting used to. You would learn a lot of stuff. You would move with the products and engineering team, all things that you read in books or you studied that didn't really have like a practical thing, you would see them in place. So I knew what API integration really meant. I knew what digital handshakes really meant, cross-border payments. It's a fancy phrase for a lot of complexity that can actually go wrong if you don't handle things. So anyway, the short answer to your question is, yes, anybody who did what they were supposed to do in class, learn the basic legal skills, can fit into any fintech legal role.
Very much. Thank you. I think we should give them a round of applause at this point because they have tried to an extent. And thank you very much. I would like to ask if anyone has any question at this time. Yeah, please. My stage manager, is he around? Please help me note the people with questions. We'll be taking them in a moment. Please, can you raise up your hand again? I know some questions will still come, so we still have one now. Please help me note. Yeah, so two questions, right? They're not asking the questions now. I just want you to note them. Thank you very much. Yeah, Weyinmi, you've worked with people playing different roles in fintech. So I want you to tell this house which of these roles are like the hot cakes in fintech.
Okay. So there are a number of different opportunities in the tech space, in the fintech space, right? And I will list a number of them, but I will also say that in deciding on a career path, you really need to look at two things. One, your strengths, right? And so look at what it is you're good at, what it is you enjoy, and something that you know you can thrive in, because it's important. You spend most of your time during your prime years working. So I think it's important as much as possible. You should enjoy what you do, and it should be something that you are good at, because that has a way of boosting your confidence. Having said that, I think we all know that engineers are very high in demand, right? So back-end engineers, front-end engineers. But also, there's really a significant need right now for people in DevOps. So if you're considering coming into the tech space and you're trying to decide and you want to be an engineer, I would strongly encourage you to explore DevOps and cloud computing, because there's a shortage in the market right now for those particular roles, not just in Nigeria, but globally. So it's a really good option to explore. But of course, back-end and front-end as well, being a UI UX designer, very important role. Product manager, and you can decide whether you want to be a technical or a non-technical product manager. And the difference between the two really is that a technical product manager has some understanding of basic coding, right? So you have some technical skills and abilities. Then we have our testers, whose job it is to test the products that have been built, or maybe there's been updates or iterations made, and it's their job to test it to make sure that everything is working the way it should. before it's launched. We have SRE, Site Reliability Engineers. That's another good profession, hot in demand. SRE, Site Reliability Engineer. We also have cloud computing roles, like I mentioned, and cybersecurity / infosec, information security, again, another hot in demand field that is currently experiencing a global scarcity, similar to DevOps. So these are some of the roles that we have in the tech space. Of course, growth marketing and product marketing as well. So these are the people who are responsible for marketing and selling the products, right? So making sure that they are leveraging whatever platforms, whether digital or physical, different platforms and different channels to promote the product and or service, and also to ensure that they are getting attracting the attention of the target market. There's also tech sales, very important. So if you're someone who, if you're a fintech company, for example, maybe your product is a B2B product, your salespeople are super important, because beyond just creating awareness of your product, you need people that will literally onboard your new clients. You need people that will carry out relationship management with them. So when they're having issues or concerns, there's that channel of communication between your firm and your client. So sales in tech is also a thing. Also look into it. So these are some of the professions or different roles we have in tech.
Thank you very much, Weyinmi. That was packed. And I like that you mentioned sales. And before we go to the question of that person, I want to ask Onyinye. Some people say that if you can sell some fintech products, some fintech products are like serious need, like they're in the niche of serious need, like cross-border payments now, or getting a dollar wallet because of the scarcity, of course. But payment seems to be saturated already, if I may say. You can confirm. So some people feel that if you can sell some of these fintech products in the spaces that are saturated, or in spaces where people don't even feel they need them, then you can sell anything. How true is that?
I'll start by explaining what a salesperson in fintech does, right? So there are 3 characteristics of a salesperson in fintech. 1, they have to have adequate, in fact, thorough product knowledge, right? They have to know their product, know their competitors' product, know the collaborators that they are working with, know everything about how that product came to life, right? Because you talk to all sorts of people when you're in the market. You talk to people that want to buy, but they want to build trust with you first before they buy. They want to know that you know your onions before, who are you to sell to me? Why can't I go to the competitor? You would need to now defend your own against competitors. Do you understand? So very, very in-depth knowledge of your product. You have to have passion for what you're doing. Regardless of what you're selling, that passion on the days that your sales are low, because there are days like that, would drive your consistency, and you need that consistency to be able to hit your targets, because it's target-driven and it's revenue-driven, right? When people are putting money into your business, they want to know that you are hitting this revenue target, so we will pass those down to the salespeople, and they have to hit it, right? So you need to be passionate about what you're selling. Okay, they say I should sell it. Okay, here you go. Please use our platform. People can read through those things and like, what are you? Why are you here? Please come and be going. Let's talk to someone that is more passionate about this, right? So there has to be a spark in your eyes. The final thing I'll say would be empathy. Empathy, because some of these products are new in the market. Some need for you to be very patient with the person that is buying it. Because they are new, the concepts themselves are new concepts. So you need to be able to patiently tell this person and tell them over again and retell the story so that they understand, and then you are able to sort of work with their, you're talking to laymen, right? So you want to be able to work with the fact that they have no knowledge whatsoever about this thing, right? So you can't just be high-handed and be telling them, oh, this is what it does, therefore this API, this one. You will come down to regular English. Sometimes you even be speaking broken with the people you need to speak with. You will speak the language that they understand. That's empathy, right? So to be a salesperson in fintech, you need to have those three, like close to your heart, right? So if you can sell with those, I really feel like, and the product knowledge I was talking about is specialist knowledge, right? If you can sell fintech products, can you now go and sell Nestle or Cadbury products? No. Only because you have the raw material to sell, but you don't have that specialist knowledge. That one is the key thing, right? So,
Specialist knowledge is key. Please, can we have one of the questions? No, there's somebody that raised up his hand. Yeah.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Sunday David. Thank you so much, Weyinmi, and thank you to members of the panel. This has really been enlightening. Okay, so I have two questions. The first is for Weyinmi. So as someone in HR industry in tech, and then we know that the fintech is the new wave, the new buzz, especially with the figures of unicorns and stuff, yes. But recently, we've witnessed a sharp decline in terms of layoffs with global brands, in terms of Meta and others, and then locally, you're talking Quidax and stuff. So I want to ask, how do you talk about the concept of job security or sustainability in an industry like this? Because you have that, okay, fintechs are springing up, and because there's a huge demand for payment inclusion, people are embracing and then accepting, and a lot of people are transitioning. But with these recent layoffs, it's dawning on everybody that this industry is as similar when compared to another industry. So you want to elucidate on the concept of job security or sustainability as someone in HR. And then my second question is sorry, I can't remember your name.
Onyinye.
Onyinye. So as a growth, so I'm looking to transition into growth. And then you've answered one of my questions, so I'll just go to the second one, especially talking about the characteristics that one should have. How do you sell? What features or what trait do you think you can sell for? Okay, so loan, for instance, everybody needs money. You want to get money, and then it's a market that people are embracing. But for instance, so you get an offer where you want to sell IT training classes, Azure DevOps, trainings as such, and then people are unwilling to pay for. What techniques do you think one can go through to ensure that you, apart from selling to the right audience, what other techniques do you think can be engaged in to get people to buy from you? Thank you.
Okay, so thank you. That's a very, very valid question. I want to speak a bit to what is happening in the tech space right now, right, with regards to layoffs and job security. So what's happening in big tech is different from what's happening in the tech startup space. What's happening in big tech is simple. The global recession is affecting them. There's a global recession. Okay, the value of company stocks are down significantly compared to Q1 this year, right? Tech stocks in particular, on average, have lost about 30% of their value since the beginning of this year because there's a global recession. The value of your stock as a publicly listed company is essentially the value of your company. So if the value of your company has gone down significantly, what happens as a business is you're responding to the realities of the market and you're looking for how to cut costs. Now, I'm pretty certain that these companies are exploring other cost options, but unfortunately, the only one that makes the news is when you lay off employees. Because sadly, for a lot of organizations, your payroll cost tends to be one of your most significant operating expenses. So that's what's happening in big tech. Now, small startups, same thing in a way, in the sense that the economy is affecting them. Because there's a global recession, interest rates have gone up, right? And so borrowing money has become significantly more expensive compared to this time last year. So what that means is that VC stands for venture capitalists. They are the companies that have been funding startups, giving them the finances to raise, pre-seed, seed, Series A, etc. If borrowing money is more expensive, then what's going to happen is the VCs are going to become a lot more tight-fisted with how much they are giving, how often, and to who. right? And we all know that because the startup space is an innovation space, a lot of fintechs, are not yet profitable. So if you're not yet profitable, but you have operating expenses, right? Building a product is expensive. There's all this infrastructure you need to buy. There's licenses you need to obtain. You have staff you need to pay. So they run their operating expenses through raising funds. So if it's harder to raise funds, or it looks like it's going to be hard in the near to mid future, then what's going to happen is you're going to look at how much you have in the bank, right, from the last time you raised. And you're going to say, okay, this is runway that will allow my business operate as is for the next 6 months or 3 months. But we don't know how long this crisis is going to last. So what do? Okay, let's cut costs. And like I said, they are also exploring different cost options. There are other things that they are cutting, but the only thing that makes the news is when, unfortunately, people lose their jobs. I'm giving you this background because I want you to understand why there are layoffs happening. Now, this isn't the first time the world is experiencing a financial crisis. There was one that happened in 2008. There was even the dot-com bubble that happened in 2000. Did that mark the end of the tech industry? No, it didn't. Similar to the 2008 crisis, did it mark the end of the financial services industry or the mortgage industry? No, why? Because these industries provide or are attempting to solve a human problem and are providing products that solve a human need. So it's the same argument. It's the same thing I would say in the fintech space. These products are being built to solve a human need that exists, that are valid, and will continue to exist even after we've ridden out this wave of financial crisis, so to speak, right? The need for financial inclusion is not going anywhere anytime soon. Crypto was created for a reason, centralization. That need still exists. So I didn't invest in crypto, but I always say I think it will still come back. This is the first time crypto has expanded on such a global scale. The level of adoption we saw in the last year or two, we've never seen it before. It's understandable that mistakes have been made. I think that as a society, we will regroup. Maybe not quite in the same way, but still trying to solve that same problem. Why am I saying all of this? At the end of the day, there's no job security anywhere. You can work in any industry and you can lose your job, unfortunately, at any time. But I am fully convinced that fintech as an industry is here to stay. Are we going through a rough patch right now? Yes, we are. All businesses go through rough patches. They go through cycles. There's a global recession even beyond the tech space. But tech is hot right now, so our layoffs are the ones that are making the news. There are layoffs happening in other industries as well. So I would say don't be discouraged from pursuing a career in the fintech space, because I do believe it's an industry that is here to stay. And I hope I've answered your question. Awesome.
Okay, so your question was around how to sell.
Consulting services, like you're training people on Azure DevOps or cloud computing and cybersecurity. And we know that not a lot of people are embracing tech the way they ought to at the moment, maybe because they're oblivious of the advantages or something. So as a growth marketer yourself, how do you, or what techniques would you suggest one imbibe to get people to?
Okay, so you mentioned something just now about being oblivious to what is in it for them, and I will start from there. Educate the masses, educate the target market, tell them what they can. Okay, so give you an instance, right? For instance, if someone is selling milk, pig milk, whatever milk they're selling, they'll tell you the benefits. Oh, strong bones, this and that and the other, right? Those are physical products that you can see. When we are selling loans and investment products, we are telling you, oh, as an individual, you can get a personal loan to sort out your personal needs until you get your salary, right? You can get a business loan to extend your working capital and then pay in bits. A lot of people react to what is in it for them. So you have to really delve into, I'm selling cloud computing products or whatever it is that you're trying to sell. I need to be able to look for what is in it for my target market. Once I'm able to appeal to that in them, it becomes a little more, a little easier. It's also aspirational. So if you can relate to that and then draw a scenario where they reach their goal because they're using your products, then that's something that you've hit the nail and then you're selling your products. everybody wins. So that's where I'll start. What's in it for you?
Thank you very much. We will take, I don't know if there are other questions. So we have one outstanding, then there is another one. We'll take them in a moment also. This goes to you, Gbolahan. You mentioned the other time during your conversation that sometimes some people, because their minds are so fertile and they think up things and they come and pitch it and you just look at it, nah, this cannot work, right? So I want to look at the models that fintechs operate with these days. Which are the ones that you think will stand the test of time from a legal point of view?
That's a tricky question. So I'll try to answer it in such a way that I do not
Please,
attack.
the truth and only the truth.
So I think that the crucial thing to first note is that fintech is much more than payments, and that's one thing.
Tell them.
Yeah, so it's much more than payments. There's so much covered under the umbrella called fintech. And that's my escape right there. If you want something that would stand the test of time, structure your product around payments. It will never go extinct, never, as long as there are humans on Earth. So day in, day out, people are coming up with different ways about how to receive payments. There would always be exchanges. We all know how the barter system worked. So, the barter system is I need something and I have an excess of this, so I give you this, I get that. It's still a form of payment. And then it's moved into, exchange of coins, gold coins or cowries, until, what we have today, and then the offline payments and online payments, card. All of these things are innovations happening on payments. So then, anything that you build that still solves further the payments, debacle, then you would always be in demand. You can never go wrong. Did I answer?
Not really. Yeah, you said, okay, building a payment solution or working in a payment fintech platform sounds like something that will stand the test of time, right? Because
Yes.
payment will always
be in demand.
So what are the other models that you would advise people to go into?
Oh, okay. So I mean, if I could borrow a leaf from what she said, Weyinmi, there's a lot of space and opportunity in the blockchain that will come. I don't know when it will arrive in Nigeria, but it's already happening all over the world. We need to build like a robust blockchain technology outfit, government run, so that people can see all of the benefits that, come with the blockchain technology. So I think that if one were to be a smart investor or a smart product designer and to see into the future of what would inevitably happen in Nigeria, then build something around the blockchain. So there is a lot of hesitance, on the Nigerian regulator side because, again, like I mentioned earlier, there is limited knowledge. So, and what other jurisdictions do when there is limited knowledge is to actually invest a lot of research into studying, okay, so how does this work? And that's how the world is as advanced as it is today. So when Nigeria eventually catches up in 10 or 15 years, I'm sorry.
Will it take that long?
Sometimes it does. If you look at our educational system, one of the presenters earlier today said something about how we're still dealing with curriculum that are decades old.
True.
So how do you intend to compete on a global stage where you're still dealing with 1970, 1980 curriculum? In my industry, for instance, the legal industry, there's a lot of backwardness happening there. So, law firms are trying to catch up because of the Gen Zs and millennials pushing the frontiers to say, there's a lot that can happen, but the brick and mortar will still win, I think, for the next 5 to 7 years. So unless we are able to embrace these changes, such as like in the specific blockchain technology, for instance, then these changes won't come. So that's what I mean. It's not like I don't believe that it can come. It will take time.
Yes.
Yeah.
As long as there are things that people need.
Yes.
And Weyinmi, is there something you want to add to that? Yeah. So now let's take the second question from the audience. That's in.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is
Good
Jacob.
afternoon.
My question is I have two questions. They are interrelated. And the first one is to Mr. Gbolahan. When during your presentation, you made it so simple that maybe to switch career in fintech, that you need just the basic knowledge of maybe as a legal officer and nothing more. But I want to slightly disagree, and I think you may need to shed more light on that, because personally I've applied to maybe as a legal officer to work in maybe one of these fintech and all those things, and the response, maybe having seen your CV or so of these things, so no, we can't take you. So I want you to maybe share your experience, and maybe you used to work with Coca-Cola, like you said. Maybe there is also other things that maybe skip your mind during your presentation that also make you outstanding, because I'm sure you are not the only person that we consider before you eventually secured the job. So maybe there are other things that we need to know. And I said the question is interrelated because our HR person may also assist in maybe in a form of mentoring, telling us what other things we need to, maybe as someone who wants to switch a career as a legal officer in fintech, what are the things that you look out for in the CV? What are the other things that you need to do in preparation for you to be eligible to come into fintech industry? Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, your name? Jacob. Thank you, Jacob. I'm sorry if I made it seem so simple, but it is actually simple. I have a reputation for being a bit unconventional, right? And what I mean by that is I don't subscribe to rigidity or to the strictness that people usually associate to some things. For instance, the legal industry. To answer specifically, for me, if I'm recruiting, for instance, or if I need to oversee a recruitment exercise for a member of my team, I actually do not really look out for experience. I do not. Experience plays a major part. I won't lie to you. But I tell you, if somebody comes to you, for instance, and says, you see some job offers and adverts, and they say it happens a lot in my industry, at least 10 years post-call experience or post-qualification experience. 7 of those years must have been gotten in a reputable law firm, must not be more than 25 as at the date. So if we break it down mathematically, so 25, no more than 25, 10 years, it means that at 15, so I think they just copy and paste those things, and then they leave out the meat of the matter. So for me, what I actually look out for, if I'm recruiting somebody as a contract specialist, for instance, I need to know that you know what contracts are. And the basics, so what I would ask you are, if I send you an agreement, what are the things that you would first look out for in the agreements? What are the regular pitfalls that the counterparty would put? I'm sorry if I'm sounding a bit too legal. But I mean, I will ask things specific to what you're coming to do. So maybe when I say that it's easy to switch, I was making it seem easy, but the regular modern approach to hiring talent is more skill than experience. If you go for experience all the time, you realize that somebody has donkey years of experience but cannot keep up with what's happening today. So somebody who has 15 years experience, for instance, and doesn't know about smart contracts, not to go too much into detail, if you have 25 or 30 or even 40 years experience at the bar, and we're talking about smart contracts, in relation to the blockchain technology that I said, on which smart contracts run, the experience doesn't matter to me at that point, because I need somebody who knows how specific obligations will trigger themselves. So say this is a smart building and you're a tenant and we go into a tenancy agreement, and because of the specific clauses that we put regarding termination, on a certain day the tenancy will expire unless there are some things that you do on your end. The building will lock you out. All of these things will trigger themselves. Experience will not tell you that. It is knowledge in that field. So if I'm going to ask you those specific questions and then ask you some basic things. Do you know the regulators that regulate this field? What things can go wrong? That's why they call lawyers learned people, not because you actually know. Most times we rely on subject matter experts. So there's a problem, I actually would go to the particular department to say, can you explain how this thing works? They tell you, you have the template idea of how legal things should work, and then you apply it. That's for what I look out for, not really the experience. So there may be, apart from that subject matter expertise, there is the passion too. I think that's another thing that I didn't mention. You need to be passionate about something that you're going for. If you're not passionate about it, you would not know about it. As you can tell, she's very passionate about the industry, because she's not just telling you things from the HR perspective. She's giving you statistics of how stocks work, global inflation and all of things. She's very passionate about it. If you're not passionate about your field, then, still tying to what she said, you can't sell something that you do not understand. So every member of the organization or business, whether you're in legal or marketing, should actually be driving towards selling the products. That's the whole reason why we're making money. The end goal is so that alerts will ring at the end of the month. And alerts will only ring when the business makes profit. It will make profit if you guide them aright. And you can't guide them aright if you don't even know it, or if you're not passionate about what's happening in the industry today. So I'll let her answer the HR aspects that you asked.
Thanks, Bola. Your question is very valid, so I want to speak to it. There was something he said earlier, which I guess the HR person in me picked. And he said, I was working in FMCG, but I was friends with people in fintech. I was a friend of the fintech space, right? So I do understand what you're saying, and your argument is valid, right? There are a lot of tech companies, fintech companies, that will say, oh, we're looking for a chief legal officer or a legal counsel, minimum of X number of years experience in the fintech space. Now, how you can get around that if you've not had the experience? You need to network. He also said something. He said, I heard about an opportunity at Opay. Why? Because he was in that space. He was networking. And you're on the right track. You're doing the right thing by being here at this very moment. So a couple tips I will give you. One, you need to be very intentional about networking within that space. Make friends, engage with people so that you are made aware of opportunities. What happens when you are made aware of opportunities and you have relationships with people in that space is that they can then refer you. And why would they refer you? Because they've engaged with you and they've seen that, okay, this person has a solid understanding of, fintech and the tech space. They've not yet worked here, but they are passionate about it. Another thing you can do is you need to take ownership of your own development, expose yourself, learn things about law, specifically in the tech space. Go for courses, go for seminars, go for workshops, and then put it on your CV. In your career summary, write it there. I am a lawyer with XXX number of years of experience who is passionate about the fintech space, or I'm an enthusiast, and you speak to throw in certain keywords. I've done self-development around smart contracts, this, that. Under education or qualifications, you put all maybe there are so many online courses now, seminars, anything you've attended that links you to this space. You put it on your CV, and then network, and just be patient. That door will open. I hope I've answered your question.
I just want to add something. I mean, Gbolahan, you've mentioned, the technical aspect, and you've given great tips on what else you can look at. I think there are soft issues that during the interviews themselves that people look at, and I think you would be able to relate to that. You'll see people who, during the pandemic, for instance, you're having a virtual interview, and the person is literally vlogging with you. Yes, so, and they're showing you their background, and it's like some of them are on buses. There's nothing you will say. You're already distracting the interviewer, right? So there's some soft issues that you may want to look into. There's also the culture fit. Are you a good fit for the company? Because you may be good at what you do, but you'd probably not fit in. And there's some interviews that I've sat in, and we've seen, oh my gosh, this person, great stuff, this person knows his onions. Would this person be able to work in the team? If the answer is no, we would create a problem if we're bringing that person in. We would create people problems. Do you want to do that as a, no, you don't. So there are cultural issues there, and there's soft skill issues too. They have to take note of.
Thank you. James, I hope you are satisfied with that. Jacob, rather. They are close. Thank you. Please, I want to take, this is the last set of questions I want to take because we are rounding off now. So if you have questions, you have to raise up your hand now, and that will be all. So I'll give you number 1, the lady at the back, yes. 2, yes. 3, and 4, right? By taking those 4 questions, in between, I will ask my last question. All right, please go.
Okay, hello, good afternoon. My name is Bisola. I work with Coca-Cola. Okay, so I'm in the beverage industry. I do sales. That's a B2C. And then my question is directed to Onyinye. You talked about working in the beverage industry. Maybe you cited Cadbury as an example that you can't think because you've been able to sell beverage that you'll be able to sell tech products. And that you need to acquire specialist knowledge. So how do you go about acquiring specialist knowledge aside from doing certifications, having sales experience, and all? That's my only question.
Okay. Thank you very much, Bisola. So there are different levels to this question, and I'll take it from like the entry point, right? So I assume that you are someone that's more, you're an experienced hand. That's what the HR people will call you, right? But for people that are just entering industry, right? You've worked maybe 1 or 2 years in another industry and you want to switch. There are usually academies in the company. They'll take you in 1 or 2 years of experience. You have the raw material, and then they'll train you. So, I mean, there's no way you would know about things like debt to income ratio or things like APIs, for instance. These are things that are core to fintechs, right? You as someone that's transitioning would need to go through those academies, and then they would, explain those things to you. I think it's more difficult for people that experience 10, 15 years to come and transition into sales in fintech. You would be more looking at head of the department, right? That's where I would look at putting someone like you. Head of department, you don't need to do the technical work. As a manager, you already have that covered by the foot soldiers. What you need to be doing is to be giving them, a bird's eye view of how to sell. You have worked in Coca-Cola. You know that you guys sell geographically, especially within Lagos. You would map Lagos, you section it, different salespeople manage different territories. This is how you can apply your knowledge in FMCG into fintech. If I want to sell a loan product that is catering towards the bottom of the pyramid, or I'm selling to people that earn less than 50K a month, or market women, or things like that, I will divide them into locations and say, okay, we'll focus on these people this time, or put someone in position there to sort of head that place. So transitioning for you, I would say, would be more senior roles that you'll be focusing on. So if you see people that are looking for heads of department, regional heads of sales, things like that, you would be a great fit, because the people that are doing the technical work are going to be taking their guidance from you. You already have all the knowledge you need, and they will be doing the work. So that's what.
So Onyinye has given some fantastic advice. I just want to add to it a little bit. So I will give you the same advice that I gave Jacob. You wanting to move from beverages to sales tech is possible and is doable, okay? Don't let anybody tell you it's not. However, you need to take ownership of your own development and exposing yourself to that space, right? Because you need to be prepared. You don't have the experience on paper. So if all you do is every time you see an ad, you submit your CV, you may need to do a little bit more than that. So be intentional. I don't know if you're on Twitter. If you are, go on Twitter. Look for people in the growth marketing, in the tech sales space. Follow them. Follow as many of them as you can. Follow their conversations. Pay attention to what's happening in the space. Whenever they use words or industry lingo you don't understand, go and Google it and make sure you understand it. Continue going for seminars. Network within that space so that you can get referrals. So you're not just submitting blind CVs, because having a referral boosts your application a great deal, okay? So network, make friends, know people in the industry, follow the conversations, follow the news and everything that is happening in the tech sales space, so that when you eventually get the opportunity and you go for an interview, to interview for the role, you are prepared. You can speak to what's happening. You can throw out the industry terminologies and lingo, and then you will impress the people on the panel, because they'll think to themselves, okay, so on paper, she doesn't have the experience, but we can tell she's very much interested and passionate in this space, and she's done a lot of work to self-develop and prepare herself for the opportunity, and just keep knocking, the door will open, okay? There's a scenario where the role might come up and it's a lateral movement. So unfortunately, it might not be a promotion, more money, it might be the same pay, same everything, but it's giving you a leg into the industry. Mm-hmm. You are now the one that will decide if you're willing to do that. Sacrifices may need to be made, but keep knocking, that door will open, okay?
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kingsley. I work with Fidelity Bank. Just like Gbolahan, I was in the FMCG space for a long time, but I just moved to fintech. Okay, so my question is directed to the legal lady. Sorry, the HR lady, yes. So fintech is, is an emerging market and people are attracted to it. But my experience so far, how bit short, has shown that there's a lot of layoffs in the fintech industries now.
Okay.
Companies are dropping people.
Okay.
I'm talking about the fintechs I even manage. Companies are dropping people. And I think it's not just a Nigerian thing, it's a global thing. Okay. So even in Nigeria, you see a lot of people. So I was reading an article and they said during COVID, most fintechs made a lot of money. So they just overhired, they're just hiring, increasing salary and all that. And now reality has hit them and they've started dropping people. So personally, I don't even give personal loans to fintech staff anymore because tomorrow they are gone. So now that everybody here wants to rush to fintech, and fintech is dropping some people in terms of organizations. What do you think is the problem? Do you think that the article I read, they are right? That they are now right sizing. They did not employ right in terms of the numbers? Or is this something that Nigerian is immune from? Thank you.
Okay, so I think I spoke to that a bit earlier when I was addressing his question, but I'll just repeat it again. There's a global recession, right? That's one. And it's affecting the tech space the same way it's affecting other industries. However, two peculiarities or nuances within this space is that one, there was an uptick in revenue streams for a lot of tech fintech companies during the pandemic. Why? Because everything went online. E-commerce sites were seeing record numbers of transactions. Streaming services, YouTube, Netflix, and the likes were seeing record numbers because everybody was sitting at home shopping and watching Netflix, right? And there was this buzz and excitement, and it was like, oh my gosh, this is the new normal. Because the truth is, nobody can tell the future. Nobody has a crystal ball. We can try and make intelligent guesses, do some complex financial modeling, but the truth is, the future will only reveal itself as it will. So a lot of tech companies and fintechs got really excited when they saw the uptick. Shopify, for example, the Canadian e-commerce company, saw massive uptick, and they got really excited, and they started hiring because they felt, everybody was using that phrase, it's the new normal. So people thought, even when things get back to, even when, the pandemic ends, people have now developed this culture, this habit, this lifestyle, and they were maybe a little too optimistic. And yes, some companies did overhire. And what I think is happening right now is that the market is correcting itself, right? It's not the end of the fintech space. Like I said, there was a global crisis in 2008. It did not spark the end of the financial services sector. If you were trying to get into investment banking in 2008, and because of the crisis, you decided you did a turnaround and went to another industry, I'm sure today you regret that decision because investment banking is still very much there, thriving. So we are going through a bit of a crisis. First of all, there's a global recession. Second of all, that uptick that was experienced during the pandemic that has now, sort of normalized, yes, led to some excessive hiring because people were overly optimistic about what business prospects were going forward. So that is also another reason why there were so many hirings, and now companies are needing to face the reality. But I would not deter anyone from pursuing a career in the fintech space. Whatever industry you think you want to run to, you might get there and also experience issues. There's really no guarantees in life. But like I said, the challenges and the societal problems that fintech products are being built to solve, they've not gone away. They still exist, right? So that's sort of my response, and I hope I've answered your question. All right.
Thank you for your question, Kingsley. We are rounding up now, so we have 2 more questions. I want to ask this. This is my own last question. Please, yes or no? Are all fintech startups rich or have the tendency to be rich? Looking at how much VCs are willing to bet on them. They are carrying all the money in the tech space. Like, are they all rich, or they all have the tendency to be rich?
Okay. The reason why there's a perception that all fintech companies are rich is because, we all follow Tech Cabal, Techpoint Africa, and we see the news every day. Oh, this company has raised $5 million, $10 million, and so on and so forth. But understand that this money is raised as capital for the business to invest in building and selling the product or products, right? Building digital products is expensive. There's all this infrastructure you need to invest in, like I mentioned, right? There's a significant cost. So all this money that is being raised is going back to the business as seed to build the product. It doesn't mean the company is rich, especially if they've not yet started generating revenue, or if they are generating revenue but they are not yet operating they are not yet profitable. So maybe they are running at a loss or just breaking even, right? So the fact that a company or a startup has raised funds doesn't mean they are rich. So to answer your question very simply, are all fintechs rich? The answer is no. The very simple answer is no. There's a lot of money in this space because investors are excited about the potential of the future of this space. Investors understand the problems that they are trying to solve, and they are excited at the innovation that is happening. So there's a lot of money coming to the space.
Yeah, okay.
I'll say as a founder that this money that you're talking about doesn't belong to the founders. The VCs are giving the business the money because of the potential, like you said. So it's not, the business is not rich until they start to turn a profit and start to able to pay the investors back the money. Then they can start to, carry their shoulders up and claim that they are rich. But that money doesn't belong to the co-founders or the founders, and no, they're not rich until they start to turn a profit.
Thank you very much, Onyinye, Gbolahan, and Weyinmi. We are not done because 2 people still have questions. I just want to appreciate them for their patience. So we answer the 2 questions remaining. So we are taking the 2 questions together so that they will just answer them and we'll close this session. Okay, one more question then.
Good afternoon. My name is Dixon. So my question is for Gbolahan. So Gbolahan, while talking, you made mention of the fact that there are some gray areas in the legal space that we need to be aware of, and that we need to follow some things to know about those areas or know more about the legal side of things. So I want to ask that, how do we know more about the legal side of things in the tech industry? And also, I have this fear for the legal industry. It's always as if they are doing things for me not to understand. So maybe you see a long list of agreements, who has the time to read all of this? And then even when you try to read it, it doesn't make sense. I just don't understand them. So how do we go about understanding this legal side of things? Or is it not for people like me? Can't I understand it? Thank you.
Thank you. Your name again? Kingsley Dixon. Thank you. First, I apologize on behalf of all lawyers everywhere. It is not our intention to confuse you. The agreements, truly, there are some things that even I see in agreements that I need to go and Google because they are written in Latin because somebody is trying to show that they went to school. It is not necessary. You know how they say communication is not complete until the receiver understands what you're trying, and the same thing applies to legal documentation. So if somebody puts some things in some agreements, in an agreement that you can't readily read and understand, just like that, then there's a problem. That's not to say you shouldn't get a lawyer to review your agreements, because one-pagers, even 5-liners, can put somebody in major problems. So, but I mean, we've come a long way from where the legal industry used to be, and all of the Rex Judicata and, ex topicals, all of these things that we used to put in agreements are no longer needed. And sometimes they even put in English, but you don't understand. When you see questions or comments like, none but one of the following is not incorrect, except you need to say, wait, what's going on here? Or, without prejudice to the foregoing provisions of the aforementioned clause, and without acceding everything that was said, that's one tip. Before that thing they're about to say does not matter. It really doesn't matter. When somebody says assuming but not conceding that, it really doesn't matter. But anyway, now we are trying to simplify agreements for you. We will put basic things that you would understand. This agreement is made this 26th day of November between Mr. Dixon and Mr. Gbolahan of, put the address there, and then background, A, Mr. Dixon is B, Mr. Gbolahan is ba, and then you go to the scope. We put it there, it reads like an essay. Everybody can read it. Your niece can read it and understand. Your nephew can read it and understand. And it doesn't bring down the knowledge of the lawyer in any way. It doesn't mean that they do not know their stuff. So that's one thing that is happening now. There is a plain English writing campaign going on everywhere in the world that we are trying to get a lot of lawyers to hop on. We hope that they do. It all speaks to the rigidity that I mentioned earlier. Some of my colleagues still feel that we need to add some mysticism, some mystery to what we do so that you can fear us. I mean, you need to know that lawyers have value. So the first question was regarding how to be informed of these crucial things. The gray areas, yeah, it's to actually, the answer is right there in the question, is to be informed. So if you're on LinkedIn, for instance, there are some, you can follow hashtags. Apart from following specific people, when it comes to business, for instance, I think almost everybody on LinkedIn Nigeria follows Ndubisi Ekekwe. I think everybody follows him. I don't know who has more followers on LinkedIn in Nigeria, because he says some things regarding business that you know would speak to you. So if one is a lawyer, I don't know if you are. Okay, so say you're a lawyer, for instance, or even if you're not a lawyer and you need to know some things, you follow specific people who post a lot about those things. Some people post a lot about AI. Some people post a lot about, Internet of Things, the future of work. All of these subject matter experts are there, right there on LinkedIn. If you search using the hashtag, it will bring out the people who post the most about those things there. If you go on Twitter as well, sometimes just randomly go on Google and search for, I know a lot of us looked some way when I mentioned smart contracts and how they work. And I know a lot of people will still go back home to say, okay, how do smart contracts work? If you do random searches like that, you're going to blow your own mind. Like you're going to, it is too much what you can learn. So just those random searches, or just generic searches like latest trends in FinTech 2022. It will bring out lots of posts that you can just click and read. And then, networking events such as this, talk to people. If you're part of associations or groups, ask questions there, call people who know about some things more than you do. Lawyers do it a lot. So when you call me and ask me some things and I don't know the answer, I may not tell you that I don't know the answer. I'll give you an impression like I'm really busy right now. Do you want me to call you back? And then once the call ends, I call somebody that I know would have the answer, because we all have subject matter experts. I call him to say, oh boy, there's this thing about this deed of conveyance. So I don't do real estate law. And then he tells me what the answer is. And they're also, because that's their own field, they are in tune, they are up to date regarding what's happened. They tell, oh, there was a case last week that you should know. I'll forward it to you right away. And then you call that person back. It seems like the person will tell the person, I have one lawyer, he knows everything, which is not necessarily the case all the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gbolahan. I know I said that was the last question, but I want to give somebody home advantage. Chris, our head of growth, he said he asked question. Short.
Okay, thank you so much for that. My name is Christopher. My question is this. When I hear people talk about the tech space, one thing they talk about a lot is technical skills. I'm really happy that today you guys talked about sales. But apart from sales and growth marketing, what other non-technical skills do you think people who do not have technical skills and they have those kind of skills can aspire to work for a fintech company, right? That's my question. Thank you.
Okay. So you said aside from sales, tech sales, and growth marketing, right? What other? So by non-technical, a lot of times when people say non-technical, what they mean is non-coding. So, for example, UI UX design doesn't require coding. It requires creativity. You can be a UX researcher. You can be a UX writer. You can be a technical writer. So technical writers are the people who write the descriptions. You know when you log into an app on your phone or even a web-based application, all those, the content, the written content you see, giving you instructions, describing things, that's the work of a technical writer. Okay, so these are some other jobs you can look into if you're not, if you don't have an affinity for coding. So technical writing, UX research, UX design, and so there are other professions like that. Have I answered your question? And then in terms of soft skills, Onyinye spoke to them. But another thing I would advise is, look, I always say the tech space is not for everybody. Okay. In the tech space, we have big techs, and then we have startups. I would say the startups in general are a little easier to enter than big techs. Now, you have to have a certain level of, what's the word I'm looking for? You need to be able to withstand a lot of pressure if you're going to join a tech startup. So you need to be mentally prepared for that, okay? You need to be comfortable with constant change and ambiguity. You need to be comfortable with working long hours. You need to be comfortable with working with a very fast pace, sometimes with lean resources. That's the reality. But the advantage of the tech space and the startup space is it will give you the opportunity to experience career growth and career progression that you won't experience in any other industry, right? You see people that grow very rapidly into management positions in these spaces because you're doing so much work, you learn so fast. And so there's really an opportunity for you to grow very quickly. There's an opportunity for you to be part of something unique, being creative, being innovative, and helping to build a solution that is having real impact. So you need to also make sure that working in a startup is a good fit for you. How risk averse are you? Because it's high risk but also high reward. Okay, so that's what I have to say.
Okay, so non-technical jobs that exist in fintech. So I said earlier that I oversee the risk assessment department. You need that in the fin part of the tech, because you need to be able to assess the people that you're giving the money to. Is this person going to bring back my money? Is your face looking like you're going to jackpot in a bit? Do you get? We need to be able to assess that. You need people that would create structures. Internal controls need to be put in place. You need HR. Those are non-technical. In fact, the people that are doing the support roles, in most cases, are the majority of the fintech, in majority of the staff in fintechs, because, well, the ones that I'm familiar with, because you have the developers and those guys that do the really great technical work, and they're maybe 15, 20%, sometimes up to 50%, but the other 50% are doing even more, even equally as good work, right? So you have, you also have operations, guys that are ensuring that they have their eyes on the money that is going out, that tech enabled, right? You have people in recovery that will come to your house and ask you very politely to give back the money. Or your church, or your mosque, wherever you are, we will be there. Which other non-technical do we have? You have so many people. So you can basically almost replicate replicate the departments in a traditional bank, in a fintech. But you will just give a lot more concentration to the guys that are in technology, because they're carrying the most work. In fact, fun fact, actually, it was like maybe today or so, or yesterday, I remember that I actually learned how to code at some point in my life. I don't remember how to code, so I don't use it, but C++ was a part of my life at some point, right? But right now, the work I do has nothing to do with C++, right? We have a great team that does all that heavy lifting, and then I have the responsibility to put it in your face, social media, Google, what's called, wherever you go on your phone, you see us, right? So that's my job, and I work in a fintech. So it's not necessarily coding, and you can be great at what you do, you can be very, very excellent at what you do, and it's not coding, and you.
I just remembered a couple of additional roles. So Onyinye did a fantastic job of speaking to support roles in tech. But also I want to mention there's support roles in tech, there's technical tech roles, and then there's non-technical tech roles. So a couple other examples that came to mind is something called customer success, right? So it's you really understanding the product and how it works so that you're able to provide support. It's a fantastic job. It's one that allows you to work remotely most of the time from anywhere in the world, and there are so many international opportunities as well. Then there's also community manager. So that just means you're managing the digital communities, right, of the organization you're working for. And then I mentioned UX researcher, but I didn't explain what the role is. So you're basically responsible for user research, getting feedback from the user and trying to understand what it is they want in terms of user experience out of that product. So it's also a tech role, but it's a non-technical tech role.
Thank you very, very, very much. If I've taken anything away from what they've said, go for it. Go and work in fintech. It is high risk, but it is high rewarding. So that's what I'm taking away from this conversation. And I hope this conversation has met your expectation. Has it? I don't sound convinced. Has it? Yeah, so go and prosper. All right, thank you very much, Onyinye, Weyinmi and Gbolahan. Please, let's take a picture. I'd like to snap with these professionals.